Hello there, what is going on, everyone? We are asking the question today, are these rumors true? Could the Old Republic be coming to Star Wars Shatterpoint? It's a rumor. There's some things that make it seem like it's definitely a wish list or speculation, but there's also some things that make it a little bit plausible. So I figured we'd talk about this a little bit in today's video and ask you guys, do you think there's any credence to all of this? I'll break it down. I'll talk about it a little bit, and ultimately, it's unconfirmed. But I'd love to hear what you guys think because, again, this is just the start of the conversation. We are still doing the 12 Days of Life Day, 12 giveaways all throughout the month of December. If you want to have a chance to enter to win any of these, they have already started, but there's more left. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my other videos. It's as simple as that. So, Knights of the Old Republic and Star Wars The Old Republic, still kind of in the same time period, but it feels like KOTOR specifically is all the talk of the town with the video game remakes, and the fact that Star Wars Shatterpoint has always been about eras, doing different eras. They have been talking a lot about eras recently, even with their mini-stravaganza news. Now, mini-stravaganza was pretty light. Shatterpoint hasn't had much in the way of new things for about the past year. We had very little updated at Adepticon, and we had only a handful of things teased at Mini Stravaganza. But according to some Reddit threads and things that are going around there, user Radrogger reported that this website has basically, and this is Star Wars, or rather Shatterpoint-miniatures.eu, is reporting rumors of a KOTOR set that's coming that'll be probably announced next year. And if this is true, I imagine that this would be announced at Adepticon. So we'll have to wait and see. But I can imagine that this would be something they try to keep under their hat, very, very close knit. If so. But I'm going to basically summarize what the rumor is first, and then we'll talk about if there's any credibility to it, what the sources are, or any of that. So, 4 new products. Now, the first one is not a core product. It's SWP-177. It's a Galactic Civil War core set, which does seem reasonable. This does match what they've been doing with other games, coming out with updated core sets, especially since they're spanning multiple eras. They may want to appeal to more people that want an updated product, or maybe a cheaper product if it doesn't come with terrain, or maybe it will come with terrain, or also people that are only looking for the Galactic Civil War, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, that sort of thing. It's a huge draw. There's a lot of folks with disposable income that want all kinds of different eras, but definitely a lot of folks that want the Galactic Civil War. So that seems like a reasonable thing. The next two are SWP-96 and SWP-97, Ancient Ruins and Ancient Ruins Dig Site, which are reportedly terrain packs. That also seems very feasible. It's not a stretch of the imagination to suggest that Shatterpoint might want some new terrain. Arguably, the terrain for Shatterpoint, it needs to function a certain way to make the game certain work, and there's really not a lot of variety when it comes to official terrain for the game. There's when you look at Shatterpoint tournaments, outside of maybe them being painted with different color schemes, at least in my opinion, all the tables look the same, which gives it more of a board game feel and more of a standard, like every match will be played on this specific set of buildings. Whether they're arranged just a little bit differently or not, they do kind of all look the same. So I think it definitely well past due to have some new terrain. So that's a reasonable thing. But then it's SWP-69, which is the KOTOR Battle Set base, which is reportedly a Knights of the Old Republic themed two-player kind of standalone box, but won't come with terrain. So that should, in theory, keep the cost down. A lot of players right now already have terrain, so they might not want more. Again, Shatterpoint's played on a 3x3. There's limits to how much terrain you actually need. And if they're also selling the Ancient Ruins terrains separately for it, all in all, it seems like if it's a real leak, it seems to kind of add up. If it's a fake leak, it's a it's a pretty well done thing. The fact with the numbers being all over the place, the product numbers being all over the place, could also be a really interesting indication of things that seem like it could make sense, right? It seems like it could. I know KOTOR is extremely popular, and I wouldn't be surprised if the folks over at Atomic Mass Games were itching to be able to actually make KOTOR characters, Bastila Shan, Revan, Malak, all these characters, and put them in Shatterpoint. Shatterpoint is a perfect way to get a lot of key characters and important recognizable characters from KOTOR on your tabletop without having to do, like, Legion. It might be a little more difficult because you'd have to fledge out an entire army full of cores, special forces, supports, heavies, heroes, commanders, operatives, and everything in between. Multiple versions of some of those. So it could be, granted, those things exist, but it's a whole lot more work and a whole lot more approvals. It's a whole lot easier to introduce some all new eras and all new things through Shatterpoint, which is a lot smaller scaled, tighter battles, fewer characters, and mostly hero-centric. Which, again, when I think of KOTOR, I think of, like, the individual characters you meet. I think of the heroes and the stories and, and all of that. It's, that RPG focus for it, which isn't, all-out warfare, large-scale warfare. It feels a little bit more like it could work in either game, but Shatterpoint seems like that would be a good launch point for KOTOR. So, yes, it seems feasible, but if we look into it a little deeper, like the user that posted it, Radrogger, also happens to be the guy who makes this website. Now, Shatterpoint-miniatures.eu does have a lot of other, it's not a spoof site. Doesn't seem like it, it's got legitimate information on there. So, whether or not it's, nothing wrong with predictions or wish lists and stuff like that. It very well may be. But I don't know. It could go either way. And why am I talking about it? Well, it may just be a wish list. It may just be a fake leak. It may be something that actually was planned, but then didn't get approved from Lucasfilm. So maybe it's like halfway true. It was something they wanted to do, but can't. It would explain why Shatterpoint has been kind of light on the products lately. Maybe this was stuff that was intended to launch last year and got delayed, and then it's why they had so few things to announce at Adepticon last year. That would make sense, right? Things get held up in licensing all the time. And Old Republic is a kind of a weird spot for licensing, considering the video games and the MMO that's still in development and pre-existing agreements with BioWare and stuff like that had to be honored, and canon things had to kind of be left alone or in this weird kind of gray space as to what's canon and what's not. And that's kind of where we go into this, because what can they do? What can be done with KOTOR? Well, the Game Awards just happened, and there, in addition to a new Galactic Racer, which honestly looks really cool, it gives me old N64 Pod Racer vibes, and it's also got swoops and other things, like definitely getting that. Fate of the Old Republic was also announced, which looks to be very RPG-esque, and if you enjoy games like Mass Effect, I think you'll probably really like Fate of the Old Republic. Very cool stuff, very exciting, although it's really just a teaser trailer they dropped, so we don't really know anything about it, but it's definitely that there's a focus on the Old Republic lately. I feel like that also lends credence to, yes, that may be something that Lucasfilm is now ready to approve. It might have been a timing issue. Maybe they said, you know what, we don't want you to announce this. We want all the Old Republic hype to launch in 2026, right? Maybe that's what's going to happen. Old Republic, these things may have been worked on for a long time. Maybe they're now getting ready to go live. We know that Asmodee is allowed to do some Old Republic stuff. It's happened already. It's happened in Star Wars Unlimited. Fantasy Flight Games recently had a set that featured several characters from Legends and from the Old Republic, and there was definitely a lot of this stuff is already being done. They've already been commissioning artists to create stuff in the Star Wars Unlimited style specifically. But again, this does mean that whether or not this is a leak, it is definitely something that seems like it falls within the realm of being possible. So I think it is very possible. It also fits my common sense meter in that Shatterpoint, having all these eras, was made to be able to dip their foot in the water. Shatterpoint is also very willing to explore new eras. They just announced that they're going into the sequel trilogy timeline. It also makes sense because it feels like the sequel trilogy announcement might have been a little bit rushed. And I say that because they only have 3D render mock-ups here of Captain Phasma and then the First Order Stormtroopers, and they didn't even have a mock-up of Kylo Ren yet. Now, this is announcing the First Order is a big deal. Why have so little ready unless you had been spending all of your time on KOTOR and then, you know, it doesn't mean that that's absolutely what happened, but it does fit, right? It is one possible solution as to why Star Wars Shatterpoint has had so little announcements and so little new product lately. It's one possible solution. Doesn't mean it is the solution, but it does kind of fit. If we want to go conspiracy theory and we want to go predictions, it's one solution that fits that. And it's kind of fun to think about how KOTOR might look. Let me know what kind of packs you think they would have. Because I think between KOTOR 1 and KOTOR 2, there's a lot of characters, and a lot of characters that walk the line that are, you know, a little bit good, a little bit bad. You know, there's definitely a whole lot of that. I mean, Revan alone, right? But I mean, when you play in these games too, you meet good dark side characters, you meet light side characters, you meet good folks, you meet bad folks. You can make some of the bad folks good, you can make some of the good folks bad. You know, I remember I have a lot of fond memories of that game. You know, cool stuff, very cool stuff. There's a lot they can do there. There definitely is. So I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to see a KOTOR pack actually come out for Shatterpoint. Again, then maybe that does well and paves the way for it to come to Star Wars Legion and other games as well. Could be a very exciting time. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and then you can check some of the links down there as well. I'll put a link to the article that originally was teasing all of this stuff, and you can judge for yourself. Again, there are no sources for it. It's just citing rumor, which, you know, it's maybe they just want to test the waters and see. Maybe it's even been a deliberately leaked rumor just to see, you know, what the hype level is. I think if I were running stuff, I would strategically leak some rumors here and there just to kind of gauge reactions and stuff. And it also could be strategically done that some people might not be crazy about the First Order coming to Shatterpoint, but I think the people who are going to be really upset with the First Order showing up might easily feel very, very excited to see, you know, like a Revan and Malak box or something like that. So, you know, like, again, it's like maybe hedging their bets a little bit. It seems like it is feasible, but again, there's nothing actually confirming this, but it's a very cool thought. All right, that's going to do it for this video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all, and always wash your socks.